Hi, good morning, everyone. So I just walked out of the studio and we're talking about the news of the day. So what is that? We're talking about the beaches in Duval and St. Johns counties. Those are open, reopened. Duval County beaches have been closed for about a month at this point, St. John's for a couple of weeks. And so we're talking about just all the different rules that you have to follow if you do plan on going out there. So David Jones, he's been out there all morning at Jack's Beach. And so he's going to come on in and we're going to talk about what you guys need to keep in mind in case you do plan on going out. David, good morning. How are you doing?
Hey Alex, good morning. I can never complain when I get to spend a morning at the beach, so I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, totally. I'm good too. I'm good too. All right. So the Duval, St. Johns County beaches, they're reopened, but for exercise only. So what does that look like? What have you seen this morning?
Well, let me actually just flip the camera around and I can give you a live look at what I'm looking at right now. This is nothing compared to what it looked like at sunrise, to be honest with you. We're a
Right.
little bit south of where we were at sunrise, so you can see here out there a little bit in the distance. Sunrise, there were a lot of people out here just standing and watching. Obviously, if you want to, we're on the water. Right now, what you can see, kind of people for the most part observing the social distancing thing. Got groups of bike riders out here. I think one of the biggest questions that I've had, though, Alex, can you still hear me okay? Because I can't hear you too well.
Yeah. Just a little bit of.
Hello.
So I'm gonna.
Oh,
A couple.
sorry. You got me okay? Hello?
Okay. David, you still. All right. So I'm gonna questions that we're seeing side panel. St. Johns County beaches as well. Yes, Amy Bernstein. How are you? And Lynn Gibson. I think Steve was talking about, some stuff at the beach as far as weather goes, and you can kind of peek in and out throughout the day. There will be some spotty showers throughout the day, he mentioned earlier today. Yeah, we are working on the audio, so give us a couple minutes on that. We're just trying to work through these technical issues. Now this is a look at right now. People are pretty spread out. They're told exactly what we like to see. This situation, we're about maintaining that social distancing because that is important when it comes to this. So if you guys have any questions, like continue to ask them. Do my best to answer. They've been out all morning, observing what as far as will follow direction that Mayor has included to us. So we're also articles, link to our articles that we have done on the site as well. So you can take a look at that. But I do want to. Show started at 7 o'clock, and David, you were out there, and there were a lot more people than there are right now. So how has it kind of changed and ebbed and flowed throughout the time you've been there? Oh, David. Well, it's really nice that he's out on the beach. You guys kind of see behind him as well. But
Alex, can you hear me?
Hey, David, I can hear you. Okay, we are trying to work on that. Okay, promise. But yeah, so anyways, we're talking about social distancing and different things that you have on going out to business. So it's for exercise only. Okay, so it's not for leisure. You're supposed to, biking, hiking, walking, maybe walk your dog, fishing, things like that. But you're not wearing towels, umbrellas, like that. But yeah, so anyways, we're talking about because that's saying, but obviously they're not trying to encourage this. Still, you maintain only going for essential things like exercise. So that's something that we want to keep in mind as well. Yeah, I know we're trying to get back the audio. David, we're gonna try this again. Can you hear me?
Alex, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. All right, David. So earlier this morning at the top of the show, 7 o'clock, the crowd was a lot different than it is now. So let's just talk about kind of what you've seen and how things have changed over the last couple hours.
Sure, it's definitely thinned out over the last couple of hours, is one thing I'll say. For the most part, people do seem to be observing the social distancing rules, trying to keep 6 feet apart, only coming out here to exercise, which is the really, really big thing here. And we were talking about this yesterday when these rules were first announced, and the question was how is this actually going to look when it plays out, right? Are people who are not moving going to be asked to keep moving? Is yoga going to be allowed? It's a weird position to be in, especially for people who live out here at the beaches and are just used to coming every day and doing their daily routine. One thing that we've seen out here this morning, though, is that there seems to be a gap between what we're talking about, which is these rules that people are supposed to be following with exercising, and actually those rules really being enforced. So we haven't seen that as far as what I've seen this morning. Now, I'm in Jacksonville Beach. It might be different up in Neptune Beach. It might be different up in Atlantic Beach and up to Mayport. But here in Jax Beach, right by the pier, we've seen a lot of people laying out. I mean, just people sitting down, just even bringing blankets out and just kind of sitting looking at the water. That was a big thing at sunrise today. A lot of people out here just looking at the water. And it's not a situation where there's people are not here to enforce it. We've seen police officers going by on ATVs. We've seen Ocean Rescue, and they're looking at. I've even saw someone at Ocean Rescue taking pictures of people who were sitting on the beach without actually saying anything to them. So it's kind of interesting to be out here and to watch as this plays out. I'm going to flip the camera around and see. Hopefully, I can give you guys just kind of a shot of what I'm seeing here. So again, as I've been saying, the crowds have thinned out quite a bit, but I think that there is still just this level of disconnect and confusion about what this is actually going to look like, assuming that the beaches stay open over the coming days. I mean, I guess it's a weird, it's this gray area, right? But yeah, that's kind of just what we've been seeing. Just not a lot of enforcement happening. There have been groups of people. I will say that there have been groups of people, but I think what the talk, right, is keeping it under 50. We haven't seen a group of 50 people out here, nowhere near that. Yeah, it is just an interesting position to be in. But I do want to say people out here really, really, I think, for the most part, doing their best to observe these guidelines.
Yeah, so I want to talk about some of the comments that we're getting, David. I don't know if you could see them, so I'm going to read a couple of them to you. We kind of have a mixed bag right now. So there's some saying, keep the beaches open, lift all the restrictions. You saw just at the bottom of your screen. Most people are following the guidelines. That's what Jane says, but there are always people that are above the law. And I think that was kind of a main concern with a lot of people was like, okay, we're giving some inches here. Let's hope that people don't take advantage of it. Is that kind of what you're hearing too?
Right, yeah, and honestly, I would agree with Jane. I mean, for the most part, a lot of people out here are following the guidelines. And when you have a wide shot, to be honest with you, of the beach, whether it's a tower cam like we have, maybe we can pull that up and show that actually. But whether it's a tower cam or whatever it might be, it is hard to. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. When you have that kind of a shot, it is hard to actually get an idea of how much distance is between people. I mean, unless you're actually like on the beach, it's hard to see how much distance is between the people who are out here. And yeah, I can understand. It's definitely a mixed bag. We were walking across a flyover here coming onto the beach, and I had a guy who's a surfer, talking about how we're spreading propaganda and how we're just trying to get the beaches shut down. That's not what we're out here to do. We're just reporting on what we're seeing. All of us live here and all of us enjoy the beach and want to be out here. And enjoy the water. I love being out here. And so I hope people understand that, we're just out here to show what we're seeing. And the biggest thing is let's just all kind of, as we've been saying, let's all be in this together. And let's try and keep the beaches open, for all of us and follow these guidelines and trust that the people who set these guidelines know what they're doing.
Definitely. So there's a couple people asking about your mask, David, and I want to say it's around his chin because he's not near anybody. He's walking around with his own camera on his own phone. But if he was with somebody, then obviously that would be up. As you saw, if you watched during the show, he had his mask on over his face because the photographer was standing within 6 feet from him. So that's kind of where that's at, David. We got to let the people know what's going on. So just talking about some more comments that we're getting, there's a lot of people that are concerned for first responders and hospital healthcare workers because it's like I guess some people don't think that we're quite ready for that part yet, and this might continue the spread. So that's another concern too, as these beaches start to open up. So what are some things that people can do, David?
Well, can do. one thing is to bring a mask, of course. As you're mentioning, no, I don't have it over my mouth right now. I've got at least 20 feet between me and the next person, so I feel comfortable enough not having it. What I've been doing personally is if I see someone walking towards me, I know they're going to come within even just 10 feet, I'll just pull it up over my mouth, and then that's just kind of how I do it. Or I try and walk in the other direction. I do think wearing a mask out here, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think that if you are coming out here, I know it's hard. It's hard enough for me talking and having the mask on. I can't imagine running with a mask on.
Right.
So I think if you are just coming out here to walk along the beach, just kind of enjoy the air, wearing a mask is a big thing. Keeping in mind when you are coming across those flyovers, I think that's the one point where you're getting close to people, like really close. I mean, like I could be bumping elbows with someone in the flyover that I just came over because there's a lot of people who are just standing on them and looking at the water.
Right.
So, I mean, that's not an official guideline. I would just say personally, as someone who is coming onto the beach this morning, don't stand on the flyovers, come out. But yeah, I mean that's just kind of what we're seeing. I get that there's a lot of difference of opinion on this. There are a lot of people out there who are seeing Jacksonville in these national headlines, right? Sorry, I have someone coming close to me. There are a lot of people who are seeing Jacksonville in these national headlines, and they're thinking, you know, what kind of appearance is this with so many people on the beach? And there definitely were a lot on the beach yesterday. And there are those who come out here every day and want to get back to their day-to-day routine. And you know, there are defenses to both of those, and I understand both of those arguments. I just think that they are open right now. That's the decision that was made, and you know, the best thing to do is if you're coming out to the beach. I saw Ginger said it's safer than going to the grocery store, and what I would pull from that is treat it like you're going to the grocery store. I mean, you don't necessarily have to wear gloves. You're not picking up items, but wear a mask. Keep your distance. You know, when I'm in Publix, I go to the next aisle if I see someone right there, and then I just try and move around. You know, you just kind of got to do these weird things that feel like not natural, but it's the best thing to do to keep all of us safe, and especially our healthcare workers.
Definitely. So Jane, she also commented again, I'm at 37th and most people are moving or fishing. I think as you get closer to the pier, it gets worse. And that's kind of where you were in that area this morning, right, David?
Right, and that's where I am right now, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I'm seeing people sitting around and just sitting on the beach. Yeah. I'm not one where I want to flip the camera around and show, you know, who it is or try and identify people.
Yeah, totally.
Necessary. But I mean, I can tell you that yeah, there are a good amount of people with blankets out here. There are a good amount of people with coolers. I think most of the people with coolers are fishing, which I think that's a little bit of a gray area. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who are out here just standing around, and that was especially at sunrise. I was just standing there like, wow, there are a good amount of people who were just standing out here watching the sun. And I think it just goes back to this weird gray area of how is this going to keep playing out? I mean, if I have not seen, I don't know how it was yesterday. I know Lauren was out here yesterday, but I haven't seen anyone being talked to or being asked to keep moving or anything like that. I've seen some people, you'll think this is funny, but I've seen some people who had their blankets out, right? And then they would see either Jack's Beach Police or Ocean Rescue kind of coming near, and they would start doing squats on their blanket so that they were doing their exercises. And so everyone's just kind of in this weird, like, you know, what can I be doing out here?
Right.
We're just trying to translate, you know, like these are the rules that have been presented.
Exactly. So speaking of those rules, let's take another look at that because in case you're just joining us, you know, St. John's and Duval County beaches have reopened, but there are some restrictions they need to keep in mind just in case you do decide to go. So as David was talking about throughout the show this morning, Duval beaches open 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then 5 to 8 p.m. daily. Recreational activities that include swimming, biking, walking, hiking, fishing, running, things like that. You're supposed to practice social distancing still, so at least 6 feet away from the nearest person. And then no group activities. I remember, you know, in the very early stages of this, it was no groups larger than 10. And so that kind of still remains. This isn't to have a party on the beach. It's not to, you know, have a whole bunch of fun. This is literally just to exercise. And you're looking at the pier right there. And you can see that there are people out there, but not nearly as much as there would be on a typical Saturday morning, of course. And then you can see that they are more spread out than typical as well, which is a really good sign because at the end of the day, David, like you were saying, everyone needs to kind of do their part.
Right. This is definitely something that's on all of us. Look, whatever side of the aisle you stand on with reopening the beaches, we all do have to acknowledge that it is on all of us to keep that social distance. And it might seem weird, I'm a hugger. I'm someone who likes to be
Right.
near people, and
Oh yeah.
it's so weird to I feel rude because someone will walk near me and I just start walking away. But I mean, it's so hard when you have this kind of a pandemic and this virus and you can't see it. So
Yeah.
it's not like a hurricane, what we're used to. You can't see this. You can't,
Right. Yeah.
you don't feel this until you have it, unfortunately. So yeah, I go back to these rules that we're talking about, and looking at this full screen here, no group activities, and I wonder
Right.
like how do you enforce that? Because I've seen plenty of groups tossing a ball around. Got someone walking near me again. I'm sorry. Got plenty of groups out here tossing a ball around or just walking. I mean, lots of families. I've seen lots of gatherings of like friends,
Right.
like a lot of teenagers, a lot of kids are in high school who haven't been able to be with their
Mm-hmm.
friends and are just coming out here in big groups. So I don't know. I mean, is it that 50 person limit?
Right.
And 50 people in a group on a beach, you're going to see that from a mile away. So I
Oh
just
yeah. Totally.
yeah, so I'm curious. Again, I would like to know, what does this actually look like? I think one of the questions to ask at the end of the day today or tomorrow is, over the weekend, how many people were actually talked to? Are they are
Yeah.
they are they issuing citations for this? Like, what are they actually doing? Because I haven't seen groups being broken up. I haven't seen people being asked to keep moving. Nothing like that.
Yeah, so we have Kyle Kruger. He just asked a question. Are they enforcing non-exercise gatherings? I see people in chairs and most of live news coverage. What
Yeah.
have you seen, David?
I since I've been out here this morning, I haven't seen people in chairs. I'm sure that there are. I mean, keep in mind Duval County is huge, and there are a lot of beaches.
Yeah,
So I haven't seen people in chairs. I have seen a lot of people with blankets out here today. So as far as whether they're enforcing that, I mean, I off the top of my head would say no today, at least this morning,
right. From
here
what
in
you've
Jacksonville.
seen.
Yeah, from what I've seen. So you know, is that a license to come out here with a group? No, not at all.
Right.
I do think that even if this is not being enforced, even if people are not being asked to keep moving, I would say it's probably the smart thing to do is to keep moving, is to not be gathering in groups and to keep that 6 feet apart from people. But yeah, I mean, it does boil down to the question of how do you keep these rules, and how do you say, hey, these are the rules that are in place, when you don't actually have people being asked to follow these rules. And again, at least from this morning, I don't know how it was
Right,
yesterday.
of
So.
course. And that's kind of what some people are commenting, wait till 5 to 8 today to see how crazy it gets. We have a comment from Kayla. I just lost it. Hold on one second. And she's saying that it's a good idea because one, it's giving us hope that we will get through this and just go for exercise and just trying to get out of the house. I think earlier today, David, you were saying that you were seeing a lot of people kind of just standing and staring at the water. And I think that it was kind of just, okay, we can go outside. Let's take advantage of this. What you're feeling out there.
Yeah, I it's so hard because and trust me, I do a lot of stories out here at the beaches. I know the mentality here, right? And I know how important the beaches are for the people who live out here. I mean, this is their everyday life. So I totally get it. I totally get people wanting to get out here, wanting to exercise, wanting to walk, and honestly, just coming out here and wanting to watch the sunrise with your feet in the sand. That's such a huge part of who we are and where we live. So I get that, and again, I just think, these are the rules that are in place. These are the guidelines that we've been asked, all of us as the public have been asked to follow as we're out here on the beach. And so if we want to keep the beaches open, if we want to keep having this and to be able to keep going out here and to enjoy the water, I think it is on all of us to
Yeah.
just follow these guidelines. I mean, I'm standing here. A lot of people are standing here, but I am trying to walk as much as I can and just trying to keep exercising, and there are a lot of people who are doing that, but at the same time there are a lot of people who aren't.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is an interesting dynamic to watch. I see a police looks like a police officer coming down this way, so we'll see if he's telling, he or she is telling anyone to move. Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic, especially for a lot of us who are so used to coming out here to the beach all the time. And I wonder how this is going to continue and how this enforcement is going to continue.
Right. So we've gotten a couple comments about, why can't people just walk in their neighborhoods? Why can't they, find other ways to exercise? And I can kind of understand both sides. I'm from New Jersey, not, very close to the beach, so I can do without the beach. But I definitely understand. I'm sensitive to, people that this is a part of their daily routine, going to the beach, whether that's to fish, to run, to take a walk as the sun rises. So I think that this is just an opportunity that people want to still have to like bring that sense of normalcy, right, David?
Right. Yeah. And trust me, I get that. I mean,
Yeah.
you can come out here. You can come out here to Jacksonville Beach and ask anyone who's grown up in Jacksonville Beach, Atlantic, or Neptune about what the beach means to them and how big of a part of their lives the beach is. And it's almost, you can't describe it for a lot of people who are out here. But at the same time, we in Duval County at least have been pretty statewide when you look at South Florida in comparison. I mean, we've been pretty good, as far as numbers here in Duval County. So I think a lot of people feel like, let's start easing things a little bit. And maybe I saw something from Governor DeSantis that it's going to be a little different in South Florida. We're not going to see the beaches open in South Florida, I would imagine, within the next couple of days. So yeah, I get that. Is it dangerous? That's up for interpretation. And I think that, as we've been reporting, any gathering of more than 10 people is what has been advised against for a long time now. So yeah, I mean, there have been gatherings out here. Have they been more than 10 people? No, but close to it. But it's people tossing the ball between them, tossing a football, throwing a frisbee, things like that. So it's such a as I've been saying, it's a gray area, and this is a weird thing to enforce. But I think it's just the mindset that, like, hey, you can come out here, you can surf, you can run on the beach, but I mean, think of how important that distance is between you and another person. You want to see someone who you're friends with, who you haven't seen in a while. A lot of surfers out here reconnecting who haven't been able to get on the waves for a while. And you can get on the waves, but just keep a little bit of space between you and the other person. I think that's what all of this boils down to.
Definitely. So, Dave, we're going to take one last look at the restrictions, as far as time goes and what you can and can't do. So you can see it right there on your screen. Duval Beaches open from 6 to 11 in the morning, and then again at 5 from 5 to 8. That's daily. You could do recreational activities, exercising. That's the main thing: swimming, biking, walking, hiking, fishing, surfing, running, and taking your pets out on a walk. You're obviously going to still want to keep that social distancing in mind, as well as David has been saying, and no group activities, because that is the whole point of all of this. That's the whole point of social distancing, is just to make sure that we can slow or stop that spread and flatten the curve. That's something that, we hope happens and people don't take advantage of a situation like this and start to go to the beach and have parties. So David, we're going to wrap this up and we're going to continue to answer your questions and, taking a look at those. But thank you so much, David, for your perspective this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Thank you. I appreciate it. And to all of you watching, again, we're all in this together, and the beaches are open. That's just the rule right now. And, let's make the most of it, but let's do it safely.
Definitely. And continue to ask us questions. You can always, find some of those answers on our website, firstcoastnews.com. Make sure you're downloading the First Coast News app and all that good stuff. And you can give us a call, shoot us an email. We are here to answer your questions. All right, David, see you later.
See ya. Thanks, Alex.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Have a good day.